Thanks again for coming. So you were on the Planning Commission for quite a long time, weren't you? Tell us a little bit about your experience as a member of the Planning Commission.
Well, it's been interesting. I've had to learn a lot and gotten to do a lot of interesting things. It's been a very interesting time.
So we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the incorporation of Lafayette.
Right.
When you hear that, 50 years of incorporation, what does that mean to you?
Means I've been living here a long time. That's what it means. 52 years, I guess.
So you've been living here 52 years?
Something like that. More than that, I guess. No, 52, yeah. Same as my oldest kids.
So you were here before incorporation?
Slightly before, as I recall, yeah.
And how do you think incorporation has changed the city? Or changed Lafayette, I should say.
Well, it hasn't really, it has and it hasn't. It's, Lafayette was really acting like a city even before it became a city, I think. It had a group of people that was really interested in seeing it develop interestingly and appropriately, and they contributed an enormous amount to the initial general plan, etc. So as far as planning goes, it started long before we were a city. As far as other things go, of course, it's more united, more people are more aware of it as a city. It's become something of an attraction to neighboring cities. And it's involved a lot of people.
Why, if that's the case, which it is, why did folks want to incorporate?
All I can remember about that is a couple of them going around and advocating for incorporation. I think because, largely because having the council, the county dictate planning didn't appeal to the residents of the town. We really wanted, or they, I should say, I wasn't part of that original drive, really. Then there were arguments about taxation. That was big in those days, as I recall, to keep property tax lower out of the city, which they unfortunately did. And I think some of them came to regret that as time went by. But that had a lot to do with the incorporation, I think.
And being on the Planning Commission all those years, you must have had a lot of development issues on your plate, a lot of Ridgeline issues. Tell me a little about that. What was it like?
Well, the Ridgeline issue preceded my getting on the Planning Commission, but I certainly was one of the supporters of protecting them. Those issues have always just been strong in Lafayette. The desire to keep the upper hillsides appear to be undeveloped, even though they were developed, kind of thing that's still in the general plan, and was a strong feeling always.
What do you miss about the old Lafayette?
Well, the Lafayette of today is kind of working from the top down. The old Lafayette worked from the bottom up. I miss the Planning Commission's strong early role, which was to develop plans for the city and to work on initiating various things. And that made it, that was more interesting. Now it's become more of a stamp of approval thing, and the planning is starting to come from the top down. So it's different.
Okay. What are your your favorite personal accomplishments while you were on the Planning Commission? Personally now. What do you feel most proud about?
I guess the having a role in implementing really what had been earlier envisioned in terms of keeping the city more less urban than many others, and keeping the flavor of the hills what it has maintained. I guess that's it.
Okay, now I heard, we can go on the record or not with this, depending how you feel. I heard some pretty good stories at your that reception on.
Yes, some of them not true.
Well, so that's what I want to ask about. Tell us some of the stories about hiking the creeks and going down the steep hillsides.
That was true.
Well, tell the story for us.
Well, I think he did a good job, John Keefer. I knew that was going to come up. What I recall is just the ride down the hill on a piece of cardboard, but.
And what were you inspecting?
I don't know what I was expecting to get from.
Inspecting. Weren't you looking at a culvert?
Oh no! We were looking at a hillside. There must have been a house developed on, to site a trail on. John was on the trail committee of the Park and Rec Commission, and I don't know why I was along, but I was to help site the trail. But for some reason, we found ourselves at the top of this hill, and we had to be at the bottom. And it was a very, very steep hill. And we had a pleasant ride.
And you just happened to have the cardboard in the car to ride down.
He did, yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, people were talking about how much influence you had on the way that Lafayette currently looks. Tell me about that.
Well, in insisting on that plans that have been made be followed, I think that's what my role was. The thing that has changed how Lafayette looked were plans that there was an early group called the Lafayette Design Project, which consisted of a few architects, landscape architect, and a strong desire on the part of some of the business people to really have a plan for how Lafayette should develop, and they really put forth the basic concepts that we followed and that got into our first general plan. So it's just more a question of keeping that emphasis on there should be a center and then a more rural kind of entries, and concentrating the retail pedestrian environment. And to some extent that has dissipated a bit, but on the other hand, it still is a city with some focus. And I think those things were all in the early plans. And I think I helped by insisting that we get a plan for the street development of Mount Diablo, or a landscape plan that we've pretty well followed. And so it's more a question of implementation than of originality.
Looking back, are you happy with the way the city looks?
Yeah. It's pretty good. I kind of wish we didn't have to move so much intense housing onto Mount Diablo itself, but apparently there's no control. So.
Okay. If you were to, when people are watching this many years from now, what would your message be to them about incorporation, about the planning process, about, governing a small city? What's your message to them?
I think to find the right people and to involve them in the process is what the city was lucky to be able to do, I think. we had a really good planning commission there up until the end, and they'll have a good one again. But it was a group that really could work together and do things. But I think times have changed so much that a small town can do more maybe than a bigger town.